Good evening everyone. Myself Dr. Irfan A Khan. I am working as an assistant professor in Rai University at Rai School of Engineering. I am going to introduce advanced data structure, which is the syllabus of the BCA BSc IT second semester in my School of Engineering. So let's start with the topic. So before starting the data structure, first of all, we must understand what is the data and understand what is information. And after that, we will come to the next step to understanding what are the basic and conceptual part of the data structure. So first of all, what is data? So if you want to define a data, so data is the raw and unprocessed facts without any context. Let's understand this one. First of all, suppose that I am telling you, okay, what is data? So data is any kinds of the input related to any object. For example, suppose that I am telling my name is Dr. Irfan and I am telling someone else profession, and then I am adding someone else location. So these are the different types of the data. But when these data are connected with the same object and it gives some output, so that is called as the information. How? Likewise, I am telling my name is Dr. Irfan A Khan. I am working in Rai University and my specialization is the software engineering. So these are the information related with a particular object. So that's why it is considered as an information. So this is the difference between data and information. So first of all, definition, as I mentioned here, and the example of the data is the any number, characters, symbols or any image. What are the characteristics of the data? Data has no natural meaning until it is processed. Processing is the very significant word to understand the data and information. When the data is being processed, it converts into the information. For example, we can say, if I am telling 2 plus 2 information data, but when I am going to process it, and after processing we are getting 4 as output, so that 4 is the information. So this is the difference and how the data is converted into the information. In the next slide, we will understand in more detail how the data is going to be converted into the information. Now, what are the types of data? So when we talk about the data and information, we must focus at what are the different types of the data. So here you can say there are 3 major categories of the data. One is the structured data, another is the unstructured data, and third one is the semi-structured data. So what are the difference between these 3? First of all, organized in the row and column. The data which is organized in the row and column is considered as a structured data. And the examples are spreadsheet and a database. Why it is considered as a structured data? Because when we are preparing any worksheet or any database, when we are preparing, so we are having some object to collect the data. So when we have an object, so when we are going to enter the data, so that definitely the data will be related with a certain object. And when the data is related with an object and it is being processed, it converts the information, as I mentioned earlier. Now, the second is the unstructured data. What is the significance of the unstructured data? It lacks a predefined format. There is no predefined format as here. Just like the example, you can say the text, videos and images. Now, the third one type is the semi-structured data, partially organized with the metadata. And the example is the XML and other web services. So now we have understand there are 3 categories of the data, that is the structured data, unstructured data, and the third one is the semi-structured data. Now, as I stated at the beginning itself only, that there is 2 different things there. One is the data and another is the information. So how the data is converted into the information, I give a simple example at the beginning. Now let's understand in more detail. So first of all, how data become the information. So there is a first step, the collection of the data. How we are going to collect the data? There is a collection, gathering raw data from the various sources. The source could be anything from the sensors, from the object, or from manually method we are going to collect the data. So there should be the collection method. First of all, we will collect the data. After that, we are going to process it. Once we are going to process, it's going to organize, analyze and interpreting data. It means that there is something which is going to be organized, which was unorganized earlier. Now we are going to organize it, and it's it is about to generate a meaning. Now the third one is the output, that is the information. After the process data with the context and the meaning, it is considered as an information. As I mentioned at the beginning itself only, when the data is being processed, it's converted into the information. The same thing you can see here. So first of all, there is a collection. First of all, you have to collect the data. Second, when the data is being collected, it will be processed, and after that, it will produce a output. That output is considered as an information. Let's take one more example here. Suppose that I am entering 2 plus 2. So 2 plus 2, these are the data, what I am giving you. And after the processing, the output will come 4. That 4 is that is the process data. So how the data becomes the information? By following these three. First of all, collect. Then after, you have to process it, and after processing, it will get the output in the form of information. Now, let's go in more detail. First of all, as I mentioned here, that you can see, it is the raw data. Okay, raw data, it is processed and then information is generated, as I explained earlier. Now you can say the data processing preparation steps are there. First of all, data collection, then data processing, and then data transformation. So you can say the different steps are being more defined here, like defining data requirement. What is the data requirements are there? Gathering. Then after that, we are going to make it for. Then we are going to clean. Then after, we are going for the sampling, and after that, finally we are going to conclude on the data information. When it is being processed and it is give a meaning, when it is associated with an object, that is called as the information. Now, what is the importance of the data processing? As I mentioned earlier, without processing, the data does not have any existence. Yani it is not don't have the existence. Actually, there is no any meaningful existence is there. So in that scenario, you can see here that converts meaningless data into the valuable insights. Yani, as I stated at the beginning itself only, suppose that I am telling my name, else qualification, someone else location, doesn't make sense. It is not giving any output. It is not giving any information. So in that case, first of all, it's not having the valuable insight until it is not going to be connected with a certain object. Okay. So facilitating the distance, and what we can do with that data which is not associated with any of the object, because we cannot take any decision. The entire world is required the data, and we need the information just to take any kinds of the decision. It is the main objective before collecting any kinds of the data and for the processing it. Now, the next one is the let me take it for a while. You can see here, transition to data structure. Why data structure is needed? Now the question is here, why data structure is needed? Because whenever we collect the data, we need to store it somewhere. We need to store it in a manner. We need to define a place. We need to decide a place where we can store all these data. So for that, why data structure is needed? Efficiently store, retrieve, and the process data. Yani when we are going to write something, suppose that we have stored something, so there should be a proper place. On that place, data should be stored, and it could be used at the time of the requirement. We can retrieve it whenever we need it. We can retrieve it. Examples in action. You can say structured data. That is the array. Array is the first example. Might you have listened about the array? Tables. Unstructured data format is the graph and trees. These are some basic examples of the data structure. Now let's move to the next. Now it is very obvious to understand the two things here. First of all, what is the data type and types of data? All they the same, or it's having some difference are there? You can say, I have written here, types of data and data types. Are they same, or it's having some different? So let's have a look at here. Data structure means, what is the definition of a data structure? Always keep two things in the mind when I am telling the data. So there are 2-3 things you have to always keep in the mind. First of all, if the data is there, it is an unprocessed form and it will be stored somewhere. So somewhere it is going to be stored. Keep this point in your mind. So if we want to define what are the data structure, so first of all, definition is there. A data structure is the way of organizing and storing data so it can be accessed and used efficiently. Yani when the data is being stored somewhere, as I stated 2-3 minutes before also, if it is not being used, it is not being utilized for taking any kinds of the decision, there is no significance of the storing the data and collecting the data. So in that case, you can say that what could be the definition of the data? A data structure is a way of organizing and storing data so that it can be accessed and used efficiently. And what are the importance of this one? It increases the efficiency of the data handling. Then after it enhance the performance of the algorithm and foundation of the software development also. Some examples are there like array, linked list and tree and graph. All these are the data structures type. Now, we have understand what is the data and information. Now, our topic is the storing data structure. So, we have to focus on the topic that actually what are the categories of the data structure. So, data structure actually it is having the two main categories. First of the primitive data and it is the non-primitive data. Primitive data is always considered as the type of the data when we are going to collect any information. Suppose that this is a table and in this table I want to store some information, some data I want to store it here. Okay. So, before entering the data, we must have to restrict the type of data. What should be written here? 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 So, in this way, we have to find out, suppose that, so the name should be in the character. To write here the age, so age should be the numeric in nature like this. So, when we are going to decide what is the type of the data, it will be considered as a primitive data type like integer, char, all these things are coming under the category of the primitive of the data. Second is the non-primitive data structure. It is having the two again category. One is the linear and another is the non-linear. Linear as is that is the static and the dynamic form is there, and in non-linear there is a tree and the graphs are there. Again the static is divided into 2 points, that is the array, linked list, stack and queues. So these are the different types of the linear data structure. Another is the non-linear data structure. These are the patterns in which we are going to store the data for the future retrieval and the use and for taking any kinds of the decision as per the requirement. Now here if we focus some more detail about the linear type of the data structure, so here you can say there are some examples are listed below here. One is the data, one is the array. First of all, in data structure, one is the array, linked list, stack and queue. Let's understand what is array. Array is what? It is nothing. It is the collection. It is the method of arranging the data in the database as per the requirement. Suppose that, let's take one example. Suppose that I am going to write a program in a simple int x. So what is this? It is a simple variable which will store one value, and this will come under the category of the linear data structure. Now, if suppose that I have to store more data here, in that case we need the arrays. Array is what? It's nothing. It's a method of arranging the multiple data at the same time in the one single declaration. So you can see here, if I want to define an array, so what is the syntax of the array here? Just have a look here. First of all, data type, then you have to give the array name of the array name, and after that you have to give the size of the array. You can give here, sorry, the next one is the size of the array, size. Okay, let's declare one array here. Here you can see, suppose that I want to declare a data, I want to declare an array with the simple int, and now after that I have to give the what? The name of the array. Okay, data type is what? Int, name of the array. Suppose that I am writing ABC, and then I have to declare the size 5. So this is what? This is the array is being declared. So these are the method by that we can declare an array. Like that we have the linked list, stack and queues. These are the different types of the database structures which we will use for the further process. Now if we go to the non-linear data structure, so there are some other categories are there which is listed here, like tree, graph and heaps. These are the three types of the data which is coming under the category of the non-linear data structure. So these are the basic concept of the linear and non-linear data structure. We understand what is the data, what is information, and what is the arrangement of the data, and how the data is converted into the information. That's all for the day. We'll see in the next lecture. Bye.